Hey guys, it's Conf4College here, and I needed a day or so to process this absolutely wild announcement before I was able to make a video on it. Yesterday, Cedar Point announced Siren's Curse, their new for 2025 Vekoma tilt coaster. This is a ride absolutely nobody saw coming. We all kind of figured maybe they would replace Snake River Falls, which was their splashdown attraction that closed on Labor Day, because the fact that they closed it and said they were using that land for future development, we kind of assumed maybe they'd replace it with a new water ride, log flume, or even a water coaster, something along those lines. But nobody, I mean nobody, saw this coming, and that's why this edition definitely strikes me as one of the most peculiar Cedar Point editions in recent memory, because typically when Cedar Point is gearing up to announce a big coaster, they'll have this big teaser campaign to go along with it. I mean, we remember during 2023 they had this big campaign going on with Top Thrill 2 as that was being developed, and of course leading up to its announcement. This one, we had one teaser that was released about 5 days ago. Nobody had any idea what it was correlating to. We all figured maybe it was for the water ride because of the waves, but no, it had to do with this tilt coaster, which again, nobody saw coming. And the way this tilt coaster came to be is pretty interesting, so some of you may or may not know, so I'm just going to kind of go through the backstory of this ride. Now, none of this has necessarily been confirmed, but pretty much everybody agrees this is probably the truth. So Energylandia, which is a park in Poland, they are kind of in competition with Cedar Point, Magic Mountain, and a bunch of other parks that have a ton of coasters for being the roller coaster capital of the world. I believe they're sitting at 18 or 19 coasters. They're just shy of 20, and they were planning to make a Vekoma tilt coaster their 20th coaster. That was set to open, I believe, around 2025-ish, somewhere around there. But along the lines of development, at one point, the park decided to cancel the project, so the coaster was already manufactured as far as we know, but just didn't have a home yet. So it sounded like Six Flags wound up buying the coaster, and I believe this took place before the merger, again, not 100% sure. And not too long after that, red Vekoma track was spotted down at Six Flags Mexico, and then eventually things came out that the park was in fact planning to build this coaster. They had a spot laid out for it and everything, but somewhere along the lines there was issues with the local government where they couldn't get approval for the project because they were taking down too many trees or something along those lines, and they couldn't really work through a solution. And plus the government, I believe the mayor of the town or whatever it is down there, was complaining about traffic that would come to the park. It was a whole long list of issues, and unfortunately the project was scrapped. So Six Flags had their hands on this awesome looking tilt coaster, had red track, gray supports, and they were pretty much just waiting on which park to give it to. And you can tell that this was a last minute addition because from what I'm hearing, there's been no signage at all posted inside the park at Cedar Point relating to this addition. And typically the Cedar Fair parks, which of course are now Six Flags parks, they will always have some massive display out for their new coaster. King's Dominion had it, Canada's Wonderland had it, Dorney Park had it, they all do it. So the fact that this wasn't done definitely hints to me that this was definitely a more last minute addition, plus the fact that there's no merch for sale for this coaster either. Jumping to the 2024 time where around Top Thrill 2 had opened, as I'm sure you guys know, I was fortunate enough to ride it. I rode it during the media preview, which I believe was on April 26th. The ride wound up officially opening to the public on May 4th, with a few days of previews in between that media day and the grand opening day. And I believe the ride operated for around 8 days. It was a little sporadic too, and then of course we all know what happened from there. So if I had to guess, Cedar Fair probably saw the fact that people were really angry that Top Thrill 2 was having these issues. Some people had bought season passes just to ride the ride. I know a few people who bought all season fast lanes just because they kind of assumed that that would be their only way to get multiple rides on Top Thrill 2 because it would be so popular in opening year. And of course we all know that Top Thrill 2 will not be reopening until 2025. So my best guess is that the Six Flags chain looked at this whole situation Cedar Point's having, and for those of you who haven't been too in the loop on the whole Top Thrill 2 thing, it looks like they have surveyors out on the ride too, to checking out the track, both for the top hat and other areas of the ride. So there could be some major modifications coming to the ride. Of course, this is all speculation, nothing confirmed, but just from seeing what's going on in the park, this could be a long-term project to restore Top Thrill 2 to peak reliability so that it doesn't have any more issues. So Cedar Fair probably looked at that and said, look, we need something to kind of ease the pain a little bit if Top Thrill 2 isn't ready for early 2025 or whenever it's supposed to reopen. So they took this coaster and just threw it in last second. They were like, look, we'll give this a Cedar Point. So now they have a new coaster in addition to Top Thrill 2 for whenever Top Thrill is ready. But if it's not ready, we do have Siren's Curse right here to kind of ease the pain. And I definitely think that's the direction they went in terms of adding this ride. I mean, they literally put the Vekoma Tilt Coaster, which has a dive coaster element, right next to their pre-existing dive coaster. They're rerouting the perimeter road to accommodate this ride. I mean, I always assumed they would put something here because it was always this kind of weird empty space. Never would have expected a Vekoma Tilt Coaster, but hey, weirder things have happened, I guess. But my surprise when I woke up yesterday morning to see this on my phone, I could not believe it. I thought I was in a fever dream seeing that Cedar Point was getting a tilt coaster, 3 coasters back to back to back like this. Absolutely insane. However, as I sat there and thought about it more and started putting the pieces together as to why Cedar Point got this ride, I couldn't help but think, you know, there are a few other parks I definitely think could have benefited more from this addition. Cedar Point, they are, of course, the roller coaster capital of the world. When this ride opens and Top Thrill 2 reopens, they will be at 19 coasters. They'll be just shy of 20, so they're definitely trying to push for that 20 coaster mark, which they always have been pushing for. So I understand why Cedar Fair, well, Six Flags now, continues to invest in this park and keep it as their top-tiered park. But again, there are so many other parks in the chain that I definitely think could have used this coaster. Of course, it would have been great at Mexico. Unfortunately, things happened and it wasn't able to go there. There's so many other parks, so like Valley Fair, Michigan's Adventure, those 2 parks definitely come to mind. This would be a great kind of headliner coaster for them. Even Kings Island, this would work well in the Vortex plot, just to fill that space to have a nice new marquee coaster. Even a park like Great Adventure would be great with a tilt coaster. I know we're getting Flash, but it's kind of a similar situation to Cedar Point with Top Thrill 2. It would have been nice to get another coaster there to kind of ease the pain a little bit, but I understand. Even Magic Mountain, they could be great with a tilt coaster. I mean, there are so many options in this chain for who could have gotten this tilt coaster. This is definitely the base model of the tilt coaster. I believe the layout of this ride actually matches the concept art that was in the Energylandia one, so this layout's definitely been in the works for a while now. But overall, I do think this ride's going to be great. I think the way that it came to be is pretty mind-blowing. We haven't seen something like this in my recent memory for sure. This is definitely a strange moment in the coaster world where we get a coaster that's essentially covering up for another coaster to try to ease the pain of pass holders that may be upset, which really is something else. But with all that being said, that is going to do it for my thoughts on Siren's Curse. I do have to say, though, the name's a little odd to me. They have some lore on the website, which you can go check out, which, as I read it, I mean, I understand what they're going for, but it's definitely a little strange to kind of piece it all together. But anyways, I want to know what you guys think about Siren's Curse coming to Cedar Point in 2025. Do you like the addition for the park? Would you have rather seen it gone somewhere else? What do you think is going to happen with Top Thrill 2? All those questions, leave them down below. Of course, if you enjoy, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye, guys.